up, dudes? It's Gaz, and welcome back to the Warframe video. Today, we're doing Riven Disposition predictions for Garuda Prime Access. If you're kind of new to this Riven situation, basically, ever since a couple years ago, DE has started changing the stats on pre-existing Rivens, and rather all the Rivens that exist whenever a new Prime Access comes out. So the stats of your mods that already exist might go down, they might go up. It really all depends on how popular the weapon is. It's not exactly the best system in the world, but that is how it goes. Additionally, you need to keep in mind that there's certain variants of weapons in Warframe. So for example, let's say you had... we'll just show you exactly what I'm talking about right now, okay? So we are in our ship right now, and we are going to be showing two different Spore Lacer weapons. So we got the Spore Lacer primary shotgun, which you have a video on the channel, and I look at my Riven mod. Let's just look at the first stat in here. 82% increased critical damage for the primary Spore Lacer. We go to a different version of the Spore Lacer. We actually have in our secondary slot, the secondary Spore Lacer. Also have a video of this on the channel. Look at the crit damage, it's been nerfed down to 45%. So the exact same mod on two different guns, but since they're variants of each other and they think the secondary is stronger, it's got lower dispo on the actual secondary. So that's the general gist of it. Like for example, if you had a normal Ogress Riven and you started using the Kuva Ogress, you use that mod on the Kuva Ogress. The Kuva version is stronger, so the stats on your Kuva Ogress Riven will be lower. Okay, that's just the general gist of it. If you didn't know what that is, it's usually based on weapon performance and popularity. And whenever a new weapon comes out, it will have the lowest possible Riven stats available. So like, once we get Nagantaka Prime and Corvus Prime, they'll probably be really, really low stats unless DE forgets something. And they sometimes do forget, to be honest. So this will be predictions, just because I usually go over all these changes. I'm so used to these at this point that we're going to be talking about what I think is my predictions for what is going to be getting buffed and nerfed this pass. Okay, so make sure you hit the like button and all that if you are enjoying these videos. I do appreciate everyone that's sticking around, and let's just get into it. So the last Dispo pass was Hero Prime Access. Basically, I think it was the day the New War came out. So as far as new weapons since the New War came out, we got the Nataruk, which came from beating the New War quest. We got those 3 Archon melees from Narmer Bounties, lol. We got the Venato, which I believe is Caliban's signature scythe, and then we got the Rumblejack, which is just basically given to you for free in the quest as well. So I'm going to go ahead and say that as far as prediction, I do not think that the Nataruk's Rivens will be buffed. It is just too powerful of a weapon, and everyone has it, so the popularity is very high. So I'm going to go ahead and predict that we will not get a Nataruk Riven buff or nerf, because the stats are as low as they possibly can go. They won't go below 0.5, so yeah, that's my prediction on that one. But I do believe, my prediction is that all 3 of the Archon melees, the Verdalok, the Neferi, and the Corum will get Riven buffs. And I'd say probably the Corum is going to get the biggest Riven buff possible because that weapon is not the best. And like, I mean, honestly, like, I feel like those weapons aren't very popular in the first place, the Verdalok and the Neferi, even though they are pretty decent, and I can see those getting big Riven buffs as well. As far as the Rumblejack, sure, I mean, why not, I guess? You can buff the Rumblejack if you want to. I'm also going to predict that Strun Prime is going to get a Riven buff. Now, the weird thing about the Scourge and the Nell Prime, which came out with Hero, is that those weapons were actually released with their normal disposition from the, like the non-Prime ones. So the Scourge Prime and the Nell Prime have had high Riven stats since release. They might just not even bother and just leave it like that, and they'll have high stat Rivens forever, which would be super cool because the weapons are very powerful. But yeah, I think that they are going to maybe buff the Strun Prime, because I think the Strun Prime got skipped over last time. Going a little bit deeper in here, like as far as like analyzing the meta of the game and like what is stuff I know for a fact is good, I'm going to go ahead and say that one of the most obvious nerfs that's going to happen is going to be for the Kuva Ogress. If you are someone that is in tune with the meta of the game and all that, we've got our AoE rocket launchers, exploding bows, and cannonball launchers, which just basically dominate everything. And the Kuva Ogress has the highest Riven stats of all those weapons, while also being the meta for arbitrations with the Nightwatch Napalm mod and lots of buffing. You annihilate the arbitration drones that spawn, and it's basically the best Kuva farm that's currently available. I'm going to go ahead and say that I think it's like 0.8 right now. You can expect the Kuva Ogress Rivens to go down to 0.7 or 0.6, which is probably where it will stay for the time being, unless like the arbitration meta setup becomes even more popular, where it could get down to 0.5 eventually. So I'd say expect a 0.6 or 0.7 on the Kuva Ogress, which will be a massive nerf, especially because a lot of people have rolled Kuva Ogress Rivens a lot to get really high stats. But I'd say if you don't think it's going to happen, it's... I'm just being a realist here, guys. They're the meta for a reason. They don't even need Rivens in the first place to one-shot level 1,000 drones, so yeah, it'll just be unfortunate for people that do have those Rivens. Now this next one is a little bit of a speculation. I think the Glaive Prime, I could see it getting nerfed again. I think it's got like 0.65 Rivens. Maybe they'll nerf it a little bit down again, but that would just be rude, honestly. The Glaive Prime Rivens get nerfed every single time, and, stop. Like, you've nerfed my Glaive Prime Riven enough. Leave it alone. That's pretty much how I feel about that one. It's not like it needs a Riven in the first place anyway, but yeah, I could definitely see it getting nerfed again. Here's what I think that will get buffed, because this weapon is not the best at all, and it's never really been a thing. And DE actually said, yeah, we know it's not the best, but we'll make a new version of it in the future, so just deal with it, basically. And that's the Ghoul Saw. I think the Ghoul Saw will get a Riven buff, but it won't really matter much because we're still waiting on a Kuva Ghoul Saw. A Ghoul Saw Wraith. That's what DE's explanation was when we complained about the Ghoul Saw not being strong enough for how long we waited for it, where it's like, oh, we'll eventually make a different version of the Ghoul Saw. So we're still waiting on that. The Ghoul Saw still has like basically no crit, really low base damage for what it is, and low Riven stats too. So if you want to do a heavy attack build in the Ghoul Saw, I can see the Riven's getting buffed, but it's not going to be really changing too much, if you ask me. It's still going to be like a gimmicky weapon for like Vauban Vortexes and like Nidus Larva and stuff like that. So, it looks cool though. I will admit it looks cool. Additionally, I could see the War, the Impact Greatsword that you can build from the Broken War or whatever. That thing is so bad. I could see it getting Riven buffed again, maybe becoming like a top tier stat stick with really high stats. But the funny thing about the War is that even with top-tier Riven stats, it won't be an actual good weapon. It will just be like a stat stick with high Riven stats. So that's unfortunate. I can see a lot of those Tenant pistols getting a buff, like the Tenant Diplos, the Tenant Tenant Detron, the Spear Axe. Basically those weapons that aren't really like, the most popular or like the most impactful, to be honest. I can see those getting a buff because... they still have low Riven stats, honestly. If you look at the previous Dispo pass, the Detron got buffed there too. I can see it happening again. So, Compressa, basically Trash Bag's pistol. It's not a very powerful weapon, but it has potential. Like, it can do Viral Corrosive Cold, Viral Corrosive Heat. It can shoot like the bubble gun, basically. I can see that getting a Riven buff too. I got a Riven buff last pass. And I'd say it's pretty safe. Now, I have a multi-shot Riven on mine to just give me tons of bubbles for status procs. That's pretty much what I'm going to recommend. And yeah, maybe it will be good to someone. I find the projectile speed of the Compressa very annoying. But here's one that I could definitely see getting nerfed. And then we're actually using it in the footage, in the gameplay right here. It's going to be the Aquarius. The Aquarius is a homing rocket launcher pistol with not that much crit, but pretty good base stats besides the crit. If we looked at the usage charts for 2021 for players, the Aquarius is actually one of the most popular pistols in the game, and it has very high Riven stats. So I could definitely see the Aquarius getting a potential nerf just because it is an AoE pistol. And we unfortunately don't have many good pistols. But yeah, I can see the Aquarius getting nerfed just because it's so popular. It is a little bit sleeper, and it can kill enemies through walls. So I could definitely see that. As far as other pistols... they should probably not nerf any pistol runs just because pistols are so underwhelming and boring right now. But I can see the Cannibalist getting another buff. That infested, grenade pistol that has, I think it's got base corrosive or something like that. It has such high Riven stats, but people still don't use it because it's single target. And manually reloading that thing to throw the grenade is very annoying. I can see them buffing that again. The Rivens are super high at this point, and they will get even higher. Like, my Cannibalist build is hilariously strong. So... maybe try that one out. I can see it getting easily buffed here. Now here's a hot take, and I hope that I'm wrong, but I could definitely see the Kuva Bramma getting a Riven Dispo nerf down to 0.5. I think we're at 0.6 right now on the Bramma. But it is just so, like... the Bramma and the Zarr, for that matter, are just so egregiously powerful. Like, basically, they're the masters of the meta of this game, and... they don't need a Riven in the first place, but people still pay big money for those Rivens and roll them a bunch. just to blow up the whole room even better with the Bramma and the Zarr. So I could see those getting nerfed. I hope that I'm wrong, but it doesn't seem like the AoE meta is going anywhere, and even then, it's probably too much work for DE to actually make the AoE meta not a thing, unless they just massively nerf the weapons themselves. Whenever they remove self-damage, they made quite a blunder when they... we could go on about that all day. But basically, I think that the Bramma and the Zarr potentially could see nerfs this time. As far as things I don't want to get nerfed, the Kuva Shakur. For some reason, I'm kind of worried it's going to get nerfed, and that would be a big problem for my new Ashe video that's coming out pretty soon, because that Ashe video is probably going to rely somewhat heavily on a special Riven stat. So hopefully the Kuva Shakur doesn't get nerfed. It's very, very good for single target. And it's a personal favorite weapon of mine, but, you know, I could see it. It's very, very strong. I would love a Arca Plasmor Tenet version, Riven buff, as it's still at 0.5. It is an extremely powerful weapon. It doesn't need a Riven, but it's still, it's extremely powerful. But like I said, the meta of the game is ran by the Zarr, Bramma, Ogress, and stuff like that, Envoy and all that. And the Arca Plasmor, it can kill like probably like 10 enemies at once in one shot, but it is not the king of the game. I would appreciate a Riven buff. It's still not going to be like too crazy. I mean, like a multi-shot crit damage Riven could be nice. But yeah, that's a personal, that's something that I personally like to see. As far as just finishing off these last couple, it wouldn't be a Riven Dispo buff without a Panthera Prime Riven buff. It has been, the Panthera Prime has been Riven buffed nearly every single pass since it originally came out, and it's still like not the most, it's not anyone's favorite really. I mean, I've tried to make a video on it, I just keep getting lazy and forgetting to make it. But yeah, the Panthera Prime can do Steel Path really well. It's a slash focus like saw blade launcher with a little melee kind of gimmick situation. Very, very strong, very good Riven stats. Just has the weapon itself has very low base crit chance, so you're gonna pretty much want a crit chance Riven to get any consistency there, or be running Arcane Avenger. Yeah, and then also the Kuva Heck. I mean, the Kuva Heck is a single target weapon, pretty good at bursting down one target, but that's the thing, is like, why do I need to burst down one target in this game? I really, really don't like the Kuva Heck, but I hope that it gets a Riven buff, so maybe I could potentially get more into it in the future. So that's pretty much it for my Riven buff and nerf predictions, guys. Like I said, the biggest ones, I could definitely see the Ogress getting nerfed. I could definitely see the Verdalock and the Fairy getting buffed. I don't think the Natural Rook will get buffed. If it does get buffed, like, sure, I'll take it. Those Natural Rook Rivens are expensive even for the 0.5 terrible dispo. So, yeah, and I would love a Plasmor buff. I don't think the Envoy will get a buff, but, you know, it is still at 0.6. Maybe 0.6 is where DE wants these AoE weapon Rivens to be at, but at the same time, I could definitely see them nerfing the Bramma and Zarr, just because those are the kings of the game, so. We'll see on the 28th if I was right, or how wrong I was, or how right I was. We will have videos on Garuda Prime, Nagataka Prime, Corvus Prime, all that good stuff coming out very soon after the update. So I appreciate you guys sticking with me. I'll keep an eye out for that Ashe loadout video coming out very soon. Make sure you check out the live stream channel. We will be doing a long live stream. Well, I guess it's going to be on the 24th for a long time. And we'll be doing Warframe, potentially some Elden Ring, all that good stuff. I will see you guys there, and thank you so much. Take it easy. Peace.